everybody. Welcome back to Kendéll Lenice Live. And I say welcome back because if you're just tuning into this one, you missed several great shows I had on the minds of men and on the minds of women. So I had a group of men come on and talk about what was on their mind. And then I gave the same opportunity to women to do just that. So now I'm so pleased because I have the men and the women here. But before we get started with this amazing show, I'm claiming that already, I want you to do me a favor and subscribe. Subscribe right now to this channel. I'll wait. Please subscribe, like, and share. Share with everybody you know, because we're talking about real issues and real topics. And there won't be any understanding between men and women until we sit down and really have the conversation. So that is what this is about, the conversation. And it's all about growth and healing and helping each other do just that. So I am pleased to announce my panel. So everybody take your phone, your devices off mute. And when I introduce you, say what's good to the people. Say hello, how you doing? And I'm pleased to have everyone back. So I am going to start. Once again, please subscribe below and hit the notification button. So when we have shows like this, you will be immediately notified. All right, we're going to start with the fellas. Norman.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Welcome
Glad to be
back.
here. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Mr. Leroy.
What's up, good people? It's your boy, Leroy McKenzie Jr. It's great to be back again.
All right, Marques.
Hello, everybody. Marques Neal. I just want to say to Kendell, thank you so much for having me back. I kind of feel like the new kid on the block. So many of these wonderful people you've known for a while. I kind of feel like the new kid on the block. But thank you for entrusting me and having me to come back again. I'm so honored.
Absolutely. And we're family now. So it's all good. It ain't about how long you know somebody. It's that connection, right?
Indeed.
And thank you so much for returning. I greatly appreciate it. All you men, thank you so much. And now, without further ado, the women. Who do we have back? We have Tishera. Tishera, welcome back.
Thanks, Kendell. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm glad that you brought a platform like this to people's so people can understand the difference between what we think. You know, we don't always have the right answers, but at least we have a platform now where we can have a discussion and maybe understand each other better.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important for us to have the conversation. All right, Deirdre, welcome back. Tishera, thank you for coming back.
You're welcome.
Hi, everybody. I'm Deirdre. Nice to meet you all. Kendell, thank you for having me back after last week. I wasn't sure. So, you know, keeping it real. But I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen today. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Usually these conversations happen, you know, when people are heated at a cookout or something like that. So it's nice to have it in a very nice, controlled environment.
Absolutely. And before I introduce our last guest, Deirdre said she wasn't sure if I would have her back. And I'm not sure why she said that, but I'm guessing because she had opinions. She had her own view. And everybody has their own view. What a boring room it would be if everyone thought the exact same way. So you darn right I'm going to have you back because you challenge people, you know, and that's what we need in order to grow, in order to heal. Everybody's opinion and view is valid. And that's what I want to make clear. And they have their own because they have their own experiences. All right, last but not least, Miss Shedana, thank you so much for coming back. And I got the most feedback by Shedana. Let me tell you something. I've known Shedana 20 years, but I ain't never talked to her as much. She called me about 7 or 8 times after the last show. So she definitely watched it and she was excited about the men's show as well as the women's show. Welcome back, Shedana.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I'm still single. It's like
and I told her, I said, so is Norman, but we'll talk about that later. Look at Marques. Marques. Look at Marques. Look at Leroy. Look at everybody smile.
You find out you're getting into another business, matchmaking.
Yes.
Right. Oh, I've been divorced and married again, but I've gotten people to last, like one couple, they've been married about 26 years. And I'm like, you're welcome.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Need to talk.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's really about connecting good people to a good person to another good person. That's really what it's about. All right, y'all. So we had some views, we had opinions, we had hurt feelings, we had happiness, we had a range of emotions, especially in the women's forum, as well as the men. The men were vulnerable, they were honest, and they were real with their experiences. And that's what it's about. It's not about the right answer, it's about the real answer. What do you think on certain tough subjects like love and relationships and health and in religion? What do you have to offer a conversation? Because all of us, if we are people of a certain age in this group, we've had experiences. So how could we not have our outlook on the experiences that we've been through? And now we have 7 people here with all different backgrounds and all different experiences. So this is the conversation that needs to be had. All right, so Tishera, I'm going to start with you. Y'all up for it?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to, the first couple of minutes, I just want to open the floor to whoever. If you had maybe something that you want to clear up from the last show, something that you want to expound upon, and then we're going to go into the show. So Tishera, I know we had a conversation and you had a conversation with everyone before we got on. You want to clear up some things?
Yes. When you asked the question and I use hate, it could have came off as if she might hate men, or, you know, her heart might not be in a good place. And actually my heart is really in a great place. When I use the word hate, I use it more so as it being just a thin line, how you can love someone so much, and that love that you have for someone can turn towards a hatred because you hate what is happening. Or hate might have been not the best choice of words, but it's a thin line between love and hate. And I just so happened to have been listening to the song, and I was listening. I said, wow, child. It is, because it's really thin. How when he said it's 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm just getting out of bed. And then, you know, when he goes into the whole thing about it, you say, wow, it really is a thin line between love and hate. We know that God is love. We know that's pure, but emotions and feelings are real. And you can go there, but there's no hate or no malice in my heart towards men. I love men. I just know there could be a very thin line between love and hate. So
all right. Thank you for clarifying that. Deirdre, you have anything that you want to comment about or to clear up from the last show?
I wouldn't say to clear up from the last show, but I was just thinking about what Tishera said, and I think that is so true. When I think about relationships where hatred has come into it, it's because there was love there. And as long as the feelings were that intense, there was something there. The difference for me is when I got to the point of being indifferent, you know, if I could see my ex with somebody else and I was like, yeah, okay, that's him. That's when I knew that I was good, I was healed, I was past it, you know what I mean? But as long as like I had those intense emotions, that anger, that hatred or something like that going in there, then I knew that I was still emotionally invested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Would you fellas agree with that? When you're emotionally invested in a woman, the feelings are all over the place because sometimes you're trying to unravel and unpack what's going on with you, especially the first time you've been in love or when you really, really loved hard, because I know men love hard. So any of the fellas can answer this. Has it ever been a time where you were in a relationship and you just didn't even recognize yourself because you were wilding out. You didn't know if you loved the person, the woman, or if you hated the person, or you strongly disliked, just because of the fluctuation in emotion.
Oh yeah, I would say that oftentimes we try to put that strong face on because we're men and our emotions are all over the place, but it may not be showing. But we try to convince ourselves that, hey, we don't care, doesn't bother us. And literally we're having conversations with ourselves in our minds. Like, hey, I'm not worried about her. I don't care about her. And the whole time, when you run into them out there or whatever may be the case, and you run into them and all of a sudden they're with somebody new, it cuts you like a knife. So, you know, but as men, we try to act like nothing bothers us. Well, that's not true. That's absolutely not true. As a matter of fact, from the show that we did, it sparked conversation with a few fellas that I shared it with, and the subject of vulnerability came up that we discussed in our podcast. And it actually hit home with a lot of guys that, yeah, you know, being vulnerable is something that it's hard for us. And, you know, it's something that we try to avoid because it just doesn't go hand in hand with what everyone expects out of men. So, you know, that is definitely something that where most men, they try to put it on the front and they try to keep themselves from being vulnerable. But when it all boils down and the truth comes out, living in your truth, it matters. It matters. If you care, it matters until the point, just like the sister said, to where you can see them, you can face them, and it really doesn't affect you at all. That's when you know you're healed.
Good point. Good point. And I want to circle back around to Shedana. Is there anything from the last show that you want to clear up, that you want to comment on for the ladies show? And then I'm going to ask everyone what they thought about the opposite sex show.
Yes. One, I just want to tell Norman, I appreciate what you just said, because we as women, we're very emotional beings anyway. And to know that a man can also have the same feelings and emotions that a woman goes through in times of breakup, being alone, whatever the case may be. Never, and this might sound crazy, but never did I think a man actually went through those kind of emotions. Honestly, I thought y'all just kicked rocks and kept it moving.
Let me tell you, maybe because I'm the one that had all the emotional guys. Maybe that's why. But men have the same emotion, and that's what I tried to burst that myth in the men's show. But like, that's a myth that men don't have they're human beings. So why wouldn't they have emotions of feeling hurt, regret, pain, anger, sadness? And that's what I wanted to. So I'm glad that you brought that up, Shedana, because there are a lot of women out there that think that, and it's crazy to me because they're human beings. They're hurt too. And if love can't hurt you, I don't know what else will. They can probably withstand so much, but love, love is love for everybody across the board. Fellas, what do you say about that?
That's right. Absolutely. Definitely agree with that. Definitely agree with that.
And I'll say this as Norman was talking, and then as the other young, she was talking. What was it?
Shedana. Wait, well, first.
No, not Shedana. No.
Deirdre.
Yeah, but it made me. It made me. We gotta.
So let me just say, Norman, Leroy, and Marques, please meet Shedana, Deirdre, and Tishera, and vice versa. Let's get that.
Right.
Deirdre.
Tishera.
Tishera, I think he was talking about you, Tishera. I think so.
Right, Tishera, because she was talking about how we mask our emotions and everything like that, or we don't show our emotions, which is very true. But it made me think about the movie Love Jones. There's two scenes in the movie Love Jones when Nia Long tells Lorenz Tate's character that she's going to New York. she's going there. She's got some.
That's
You know,
one of my favorites. I
she
know,
wants to do.
Leroy, let me tell you something. That's because me and Leroy love movies. And I know what you're going to say, because if you watch past videos, I say it all the time. Let me see, because I'm about to do a tap dance. Go ahead, Leroy.
But she tells him that she's, you know, she's going to New York, and he's like, "Oh, it's no big deal. You know, go do what you gotta do. You know, and all this, that, and the other." And as soon as when she leaves, he's with his boy sitting in the I think it was they were sitting at a bar, wherever, the restaurant or whatever, and he's sitting there going off. Well, if she did this and she did that, she don't know. I'm supposed, you know, I'm the one that did this, that, and the other. And he was being all emotional and vulnerable with his boy, but didn't at the same time didn't want to show her that he was into her and that he really didn't want her to go. He didn't want her to go, but he didn't want to say it because he felt like if he did say he wanted her, he didn't want her to go, that she might, you know, she you know, that he might lose her or whatever. It happened like that. So we do, and I thought that was such a true, you know, reality of what they were playing, because we do as men sometimes want to act one way when in reality we do feel another way, because that's, I tell women this all the time. It's what we were taught as little boys.
Right.
Little boys, you're not supposed to be emotional. You're not supposed to be vulnerable. Get up. You know, you scrape your knee. Get up. Pick yourself up. Go and keep, like you were saying, keep going. You keep going. That's what we've been taught. But when we get older, we understand. We have to come to understand it, and we have to understand that it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to be vulnerable. And it may take some men time to be able to kind of open that wall up, to let it down, and because of what we've been conditioned to. It's just like telling yourself you've been conditioned to do one thing your whole life, and then all of a sudden you're supposed to turn it off just like that. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. It doesn't happen. You have to consistently work at it. You have to be in a place, and I'll say this to the ladies have to create a space where that can happen. Because if it doesn't if it's thrown back in a man's face, will shut down real quick, fast, in a hurry, and go right back to see, that's why I don't do it. That's exactly why I don't show that emotion. That's exactly why, because it's going to be thrown up in my face. I'm going to be seen as weak. I'm going to be seen as someone who is less of a man.
And I think, ladies, I think that if we can think back, a lot of us have probably done that before.
Yes.
We've probably done it.
I admit it. Yeah.
And I know I've done it before too. Definitely. When you think about it, just think about the span of your life and your relationship.
Okay, I have. Yeah, I just thought about it.
What you say, Deirdre?
At first I was saying no, then I started thinking back to college, and I was like, never mind.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Because sometimes, even if you don't know you're doing it, you can really sit back, like you just said, if you sit back and be like, I've probably done that before. And just keeping it real, because it's about authenticity. It's about the right answer, not the pretty answer. And I think once we get down to the nitty gritty and stop trying to gloss over everything and making everything pretty and really have the honest conversations, that's when we will begin to understand each other. So Leroy, I thought you were going to say, so you said another thing from Love Jones, which I totally get it. But I'm going to go back to Love Jones. But when you said that, I thought about Martin. Remember when Gina was trying to leave? He was like, no, baby, don't leave. He was like, go, step. He was like, step.
Right.
And she was trying to leave. He was like, no.
That's true.
That macho stuff, when that lady is walking out the door, all that macho stuff and all that bravado, that's going to change when she really got her. Look, don't let a lady get her purse and her keys. Because when you get your purse and your keys, you already know. But one of my, since we're talking about love and Love Jones, one of my favorite quotes, which I quote all the time from Love Jones, I don't know if you remember, it was Khalil Kane's character in Nia Long, remember her ex-boyfriend, and they were in a house, and he said, who ate my toasted oats, and all of that whole scene. But but that's not the quote. But he said, but we've been together all of these years. And she said, all we had was all these years. And to me, that right there, that's a lot in that. And so many people are married 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and they've been unhappy the whole time. I see them on Facebook because I know their real relationship. But if we look on social media,
Right.
Wow.
it's a whole one of my girlfriends I called and I said, you and your husband good? She said, no, he's still sleeping in the other room. I hate him and he hates me. But what's happening is they're putting it on social media. So you have people who are single looking at this saying, oh, I wish I had a relationship like theirs. And their relationship is not like that. But they're counting the years. They're counting the years. So with that being said, I want to go to Marques because he and his wife have something on Tuesday and they keep it real to the point where I was talking to Shedana. I was like, yeah, you got to check out Marques' show because he and his wife, they keep it real. Now, I don't know if I want to bring this up, but since you guys brought it up, Marques, I'm going to bring it up. Is it okay?
Sure.
What you and your wife talked about last week.
Okay, sure.
And we don't have to stay on it. We don't
Okay.
have to stay on it. But he and his wife started doing a show. What is it called? Talk to me too. What is it?
Tuesday Talks Together.
Tuesday Talk Together.
Yes.
So someone asked the question about infidelity. And there are a lot of men that have been cheated on. There are a lot of women who have been cheated on. And I'm not that person that thinks all women don't cheat, but all men do. No, there are some men in relationships that don't cheat and the women are cheating and vice versa. So he and his wife were talking and someone asked a question about infidelity. And I'm going to let Marques go from there. And then you just speak about whatever you want to speak about for a moment. And then I'm going to ask everybody else about infidelity. And if sometimes it is the woman's fault or if it's the men's fault. And with Marques and their show, they were talking. And I found it interesting that he said that it was his wife's fault of why he cheated. And I'll let you go. And you don't have to say a lot, but I found it interesting. And oddly enough, I understood.
So, okay. Wow. Okay. So
He said, wow.
You saying that I thought it was her fault, or which part you want me to touch?
Okay. Well, and I want to say this was some years back. He said he didn't just cheat yesterday or last Tuesday. This was some years back. And the reason why I'm bringing it up, because a lot of people think once infidelity takes place, then they can't repair the relationship. So they talked about getting that. But then he mentioned that, and I'm going to let him tell his own story, but he mentioned that it was his wife's fault. And his wife kind of understood that. And oddly enough, as a woman, I got what he was saying.
Okay, so it's funny because I'm look at facial expressions. That's funny. So, you know, what happened with me and my wife, first of all, me and my wife started dating when I was very young. And the young lady that mentioned the part about love and hate, I would love, maybe I just missed some things what she was saying, but I would really love for her to expound so I can have a clear understanding. Because me personally, and I may be the oddball of the group, me personally, I believe once love is love, it's always going to be love. I don't believe it switches to a place of hate only because we start to mix manage our emotions. And when we start to mix manage our emotions, then it can turn to a thing of hate. I'm going to go answer your question, but I'm going to touch this. The Bible says that God loved the world and he gave his only begotten son. What God presented to us only became tarnished when it got into the hands of somebody else. When it got into the hands of somebody else, it became tarnished because this very intent of sending it was mishandled and misused. But let's not forget, when he comes up out of the grave, he takes back his emotions and his feelings, which was what? His son. As long as we manage our emotions and feelings and keep them in the right intent where it was in the beginning, I just honestly believe love is going to always be love. And that doesn't mean you stay with the person. And I'm going to answer your question. I know I'm going around the Marbury bush. I lost my virginity when I was at 12. 12 years old, I lost my virginity with the young lady I was dealing with at the time, who honestly I fell in love with because she was my first in everything. And I honestly fell in love with her. Well, she ended up cheating on me. After she cheated on me, we ended up still dealing with each other, and we still remain a great relationship till this day. She is friends with my wife. I'm friends with her husband. They live somewhere way out of Virginia. I'm friends with her husband, and we have a still great relationship. Why? Because I honestly loved her. It was real, honestly love. Even though it didn't pan out, even though it didn't work out, I honestly loved her. So till this day, we still have a great relationship. She'll have conversations with my wife. I'll talk to her husband. It's just still a great relationship. To get back to what you were saying, because y'all looking at me stuck now. So to get back to what you were
Look at Deirdre's head. Deirdre's head's cocked to the side.
Oh, wait a minute, let me set it up.
yeah,
I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting.
Yeah,
I think it turns into hate, and I'm gonna go back to answer your question, Kendell. I think it turns into hate when you start to personally mix manage your emotions. When you personally start to mix manage your emotions, then yes, in time, you're going to hate that individual. But if you keep your emotions in the intent it was in the beginning, that there could be possibly nowhere in the world that you can hate them. You might not deal with them. You might not ever in life ever deal with them again, because whatever caused you to feel that way, you never want to feel that way again. But to say I now hate them, for me personally, I think that's just the way you're handling your emotions. Now, to answer Kendell's question, yes, I said when it all blew up, I said it was my wife's fault. The reason why I said it was my wife's fault, because I've been dealing with my wife since I was 15 years old. I'm 42 now. So from 15 to 42, it's been me and my wife. We've had our moments of off and on, but now we're 19 years into marriage. When I met my wife, she had a son. I stepped in as a dad at 15, not knowing what I'm doing, but I'm just trying to help her with her son. When it came down to certain things sexually, my wife had a very clear understanding of who she had, because I was never the guy that came into a relationship without putting everything on the table. Y'all got me here, Leroy, so I'm gonna do what I do. If I'm a freak, you gonna know it. If this is what I like, you gonna know it. If this is what I want, you gonna know it. And if you can't handle that, leave me alone. Well, me and my wife start dealing. We have a great relationship. We got a great thing going on. We get married. After we got married, we have the problem with one of the areas, we had a lot of kids. So she comes into the relationship with the son. Then she gets pregnant with my first son. Then we get ready to get married. She's pregnant with our daughter, who she's getting ready to drop. So by the time we get into marriage, we're already basically 3 kids in. And a lot started happening. And so I'm going to my wife and I'm talking to her about what I'm struggling with, what I'm wrestling with, what it is that I need. This is where I am. And this just constantly went on for months turned into years. And like I said on the show, nobody ever wakes up and says today, oh, well, today's going to be the day I cheat. It didn't happen that way. What happened was, out of the blue, somebody comes into the picture and they're starting to say things to me that my wife one time used to say. And now I'm falling into this trap of wanting what I once had from this person. I'm not getting it, but here it is over here. But yet I'm still having conversations with my wife of, this is where I am. And I just kind of felt like it was at a point of, I really don't care what you're going through. You know, that ain't where I am. So deal with it the best way you can. And when we looked up, we're wrestling with, you know, I think I went through that period of like 4 years. So we're wrestling with like almost 2, 3, 4 years of infidelity that I had found myself in. And it took a toll on our marriage. It took a toll on our marriage, but it goes back to what I said. When my wife really sit down and look at the intent of why she really loved Marques. And when I looked at the intent of why I love Lisa, love won. We put it together. Yeah. We fixed it. We got over it. We kept our family together. And here we are today.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, but I was over here smiling so hard because if you just take a look at the faces of these people.
And I get it. Trust me, I get the ladies' faces. I get it and I understand it, but to help the ladies, in order for y'all to fix y'all faces, you're going to have to really hear the intent of the heart of a man. Woo! That, and your face is going to always be like that.
Yeah. Can I tell you, I agree with them.
Wait. Give me 1 second. because look, both of y'all get ready to speak at the same time. But when I say that I agree with him, I agree with, because a lot of women start stuff, and Shedana, I'm gonna definitely give it the floor to you, because I want your input more than mine. But I agree with how people start relationships sometimes. They know who they're dealing with, vice versa, and they do all of these things to quote unquote get the person or to be with the person. And when you have conversations or you try to come with conversation and communication, sometimes you're dismissed, sometimes you're not listened to, sometimes you're not heard, sometimes you're not valued, and sometimes somebody can show you who they are and what they want, but in your mind, as the other person, you're thinking they're not going to do that to me, or I can change them, or I can change him or her, and they're not really listening to what the person is saying. So I really think,
to add to your point, Kendell, let's remember on the show, I clearly said I accepted my responsibility in the role that in the show. I felt I hit a place of being very insensitive and selfish to the fact that we now have a pretty large family to be young and married. I got married when I was 24. So to be 24 years old and you're already 3 kids in, that's a lot, you know. And so my wife is juggling with a lot of things, and it didn't take me until the fact of almost losing her that I had to tell myself, dude, you was really insensitive. You hit a place of being selfish. You know, you kind of wanted what you wanted, even though you was telling her that, you kind of just didn't see where she was in the place of her life at that time.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting ready to say. And I was getting ready to try to clarify, so I'm glad you did it for yourself. I was going to say, he took ownership. He didn't say, and see, because it's a cop-out if somebody say, you made me do it. That's a cop-out. I don't buy that. But when he explained it, I got what he was saying, because he did take ownership. And I think it's important for adults to do just that. And he said he was wilding, he was selfish, but I understood when he said that, because his wife was right there, so you can see both sides. So I understood what he was saying. I'm not saying I condoned it and thought he was right, and neither did he. So I just wanted to clarify that. But Shedana, then I'm going to go to Deirdre, and then I want to hear from Norman, who is like really intense with it. Look at Norman. But go ahead, Shedana.
I just want to say I agree with everything he said, honestly. I appreciate the fact that he said he put everything out on the table. His likes, his dislikes, what he want, how much he wanted. You know, because you got women like that too, honey. I mean, it's a breakfast, lunch, dinner, and in between thing. And if you can't hang, then let me know, you know, so I can understand it. But this is the thing though, when you have to realize, and I think you made mention of this, that sometimes emotionally, physically, health-wise, we go through things where things change. Women having babies, you know, our bodies change, and we're trying to see, the only thing y'all did was just come together with us, and that's it. We're the ones dealing with that 9-month emotion, morning sicknesses, and then after giving birth, and then learning how to now tend to this baby that's crying every second, and we're nursing or whatever, how we choose, you know, and our bodies go through things. And then when you have a man that doesn't understand, and he's then ready to go outside of the marriage, because when we have that attitude or we're not in the mood, instead of holding us and saying, hey, I understand, you know, or I might, or be honest, I don't understand, but help me understand, or I don't understand, but I'm still here for you. And when you can give a woman that, and you know what, baby, do you think we even need to go and find help from somewhere with women who've gone through this to help you get through this, so we can get through it together? Baby, when you got a mindset like that, when girlfriend come out, most women, you better run, because we ready, because you were there to support us, and now we want to pour that love back into you. We give what we get.
And to your point, again, definitely understandable. I'll say it, during that time, again, 24 years old, very involved, very involved with my kid. You know, I changed diapers, I gave baths, I fixed bottles, you name it, I did what I could to help out, you know. So it wasn't like you know, back then, you know, to your point, you know, some of the things that environments that I was in, it was a little different than it is now. When you, and not to knock anybody, when you look at old school versus what we do now. So, you know, sometimes you kind of feel like you're in the world all by yourself. You know, you kind of feel like, hey, I got to manage this and figure this out on my own. You know, but you know, to the point at that time, 24 years old and dealing with 3 kids and a wife, and you know, we managed during that time, you know, and made a lot of mistakes. But like I
Well,
said,
I'm glad you learned, because our bodies go through so much shapes. Some women, the elasticity comes right back, pop. And then there's some women like myself, be like, God dang it, how in the world, you know, how come I wasn't in that family gene, you know? And so, and then when you have the man that your body has gone through that transformation, to look at you and not be able to give you those same compliments or love on you the same way, you know, that's where also then the women come in, where they can step out, because, you know, it goes both ways. But I'm glad you all learned, and I commend you.
Yeah, and nobody, of course, nobody brings on cheating themselves. We know this, but we're just having an open dialogue. So we know that it's no one else's fault. Everybody's responsible for their own behavior. And we know that. So I want to just really clear that up. We know that. But things happen, and a lot of people say, well, how can you even make a marriage work or relationship work after infidelity? Now me, I'm like, I ain't gonna do it. But you just don't know until you're faced with that. But I'm like, I don't know. I'm very mature, but I'm not sure if I'm that mature. And you never know until you're faced with that situation and what you have with your family and what you've built as a unit. So I can never say never. I can say never now, but who knows, you know, what will happen later. But Deirdre, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, so first of all, I appreciate Marques telling his story and telling his truth. There was a couple of things that stood out to me, and I hope I wasn't having on a judgmental face. I was really just thinking and processing. One, when Marques led off, he was mentioning, you know, that his fiance at the time, she already had a baby, then she got pregnant. And I'm thinking to myself, well, how'd she get pregnant? So, you know what I'm saying? There's a language there that is pervasive in our society.
Right,
women get pregnant.
That's true.
And it's like, who did it? Right? So no, we got pregnant together. So it's not like all of a sudden, you know, you're in this relationship and she's like, oh, my stomach's out. No, you did some pooping up in there too. Right? And so that's why she was in that situation. And when you got married, poof, you had another one. Now, see, that gets into a whole nother thing, because in relationships, this whole idea of birth control and what's going to be used and all that, a lot of the onus goes on the women, and the men don't want to wear what they need to wear. And then poof, a baby comes out and they get a little heated. Not saying that that's your story, but, you know, I think about those things. And when it comes to the, yes, you know, you're upfront about everything. And I believe in that. If I'm in a relationship, we lay everything on the table up front. And I'll tell you this, and this will probably be shocking. I don't ask for a committed relationship up front, because I think that, you know what? I don't want to be in a relationship with somebody that is faithful to me out of a requirement.
Obligation.
I want somebody that's faithful to me because they don't want to be with anybody else.
Right.
And so, you know, let's have that conversation. And so I thought about the next point, but you were young at the time. But the next point would be, you know, when things start to go a little bit sideways and you're like, I'm not getting this need met. Do you ever think about having that conversation saying, I'm not having this need met, and I think we need to talk about the fact that I'm going to get it met.
No, that's
you know what I'm saying? Now that's a big one, because, you know, a lot of people are not going to go for that and say, hey, no. But that's the reality. And you can have that conversation then and say, well, listen, this is what you signed up for. I told you this is what I want. I'm not getting it. So we need to have a conversation, because if this doesn't change, this is what's going to happen. Now, again, I I have a lot of guy friends, and I've grown up witnessing a lot of long-term relationships where people weren't faithful. You know what I mean? Because back in the day, folks didn't get divorced. You know what I mean? You heard about the inside kids and the outside kids. And, you know, Mr. So-and-so is coming around, or Miss So-and-so is just, that's what happened, right? But I think if you're upfront and you have a real conversation about it and say, wait a minute, this is what my expectations are. They're not being met. So maybe we need to talk about this. You know what I mean? You can start off with an open relationship, and then you get to a point where all of a sudden you are catching those feelings. Because what I notice is that a lot of times people want monogamy from the other person, but they don't necessarily want it for themselves. So it's like, no, I don't want an open relationship because, you know, no, I don't want you going out and doing this and that and the other. We're going to be together, blah, blah, blah. But if you're going to go out and cheat, to me, the lying is the worst part. Not the physical thing, because you know what? A relationship is so much more than sex.
Yeah, that's so true.
You know what I mean? It is so much more than that. It is a social contract. It's a business contract. Let's keep it real. You're merging all these things together. Sex is like that part of it. I mean, now it can be a great part of it, but it's that part.
Right.
And that part doesn't have to be met in that relationship.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a choice.
But you know what? Relationships, if you believe in God, if you believe in Bible, there's instructions right there. If you believe in whatever, there's instructions right there.
But even in the Bible, Kendell, in the Bible,
we already know. Yeah,
concubines, left and right, 40 million wives. And they had stuff in there. Now, we can go through the scripture, because they also said, man, you need to satisfy your woman. And, you know, Levitical law, if you weren't going and giving her that big O, you would have a problem.
Right. And
so,
then,
you know,
between the two people and what type of relationship they want to have, and the open communication that they have as a couple, and what needs does this person have, what needs does this person have. That's why I always think it's important to have weekly meetings, like, what's good with you? Are you all right? Is everything all right? You know, because even with relationships, there should be some type of mission statement. Like, what are we trying to get out of this relationship? What are we trying to get out of this marriage? What do we want? You know, what are our goals? And to really sit down, like you said, Deirdre, even like a kind of a business contract, a love contract, relationship contract, whatever. So you're on the same page, because it's not going to be all the time where you're going to be on the same page. It's just impossible.
The point is communication, and it's honesty. So it's not, you know, like I don't want this to sound like I'm saying some kind of revolutionary thing. What I'm saying is make the implicit explicit, because people are doing what they're doing anyway. So rather than pretending like it's not happening, and you know, he creeps in late or she does this and all of the,
and we're not talking
with each other, because all you're doing is magnifying the infidelity.
And I just
by
want
lying
to be clear,
on top
we're still
of
not talking about Marques's relationship. Now we've opened it just to the floor. So I don't want you to think we're still talking about Marques's relationship.
No, but I do have but the question I have is when you started out talking, you said that basically, you know, she didn't get pregnant on her own.
Right.
Are we talking which pregnancy?
I know, not the very first one, because you told me she already had a child when you met her and started seeing her. But then you said
I want to follow where you're going. So after that,
but then you said she got pregnant, and then she got pregnant again after we got married. And I'm like, well, how'd she get that way? Because at least two of those times you were at bat.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, she got that way because of me.
Right, exactly. So then it's not she got that way, like this, you know, type of thing. It was like, no, I got her pregnant. Now, see, that's a whole different, how many men say that? I got her pregnant.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to she got pregnant.
Oh no, those mine. I did that.
I'm just saying, because this is language, though. When you think about how you raise your children, when you raise your daughters versus you raise your sons, don't get that girl pregnant.
Right. Instead of saying,
and that's how I was raised.
And when it's a girl, don't you get pregnant. right? And it's like, okay, no, there's two people at play all the time.
Right. And I agree with you. It's both. We're pregnant. That's why people say we're pregnant, because we both took part. You know, hopefully you both took part in that pregnancy. But Norman, I'm looking at you and you're looking intent, and so is Leroy and Tishera. So I thank you for your patience, because we got some views here, you know? So I want to kind of flip it. Norman, has it ever been a time where you were cheated on by a woman and you thought she would never do it?
Well, I'm not gonna say I wouldn't think that she would never do it, but I was in this way, I'm not calling out anyone at all. I was in, I'll just say, a relationship for quite so many years. And I can't think of a year during that relationship that I didn't have to deal with someone else coming into our lives. So, but I stayed. I stayed for what I consider to be valid reasons. And until it got to a certain point where there was a straw that broke the camel's back. And I said, if it happens one more time, I'm out of here and I won't be back. And
how many times had it happened at that point?
Over a period of 23 years, 25 times.
Whoa. Skirt. Let me rewind. Let me play the record back. She cheated on you 23 times?
Over a period of 23 years, maybe 25 times over that I'm aware of.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because somebody's watching like, what? After the first time, maybe second, maybe the third, what made you stay in that relationship, or why did you decide to stay knowing that she continuously disrespected you in that manner? Because I can see one time you can work through, maybe twice, there's a mistake. Right. Okay, let's grant it. But 20 something times, where was your level of love and, I'm going to just keep it real, self-worth at that time? Because men struggle with that too.
Yeah, absolutely. The love for a child can supersede almost anything.
Yep.
And if you have a child who is somewhat considered a special child and that needs you there, that supersedes any personal pain that you go through.
Absolutely.
Woo! Yeah.
So that was my situation.
Okay.
And I stuck there by them till I knew that that child was to a point where they were going to be okay. And that was to the point I saw them grown. And I saw that they would be able to function. And that they would be able to actually take care of themselves, contribute to society like anyone else. They've proven themselves to me. That at that point, even though I had become numb to a lot of it, and I've had some personal losses because of being in certain situations, but I had become numb to it, and love of my child superseded everything.
Amen.
So yes, I've been on that end. I've been on that end multiple times in multiple relationships. And you don't always take it the same way every single time. There's been some where it's like, I'm done. That's it. But the one thing that's a fact is that you have to ask yourself, did I contribute in any type of way? Is there something that I could have done differently? When someone tells you that it's not you, that it was themselves, I did nothing wrong, and you know you haven't left anything on the table, you can walk away confidently with a clear heart, clear conscience, clear mind that I've done everything, I didn't do anything. Now, there was one situation where hey, I mentioned to you, you already know how I am. I used to be on that paper chase, going getting that money. And that was my number one priority. Well, while I'm out there getting that, away, working, just working, I'm not hearing what somebody.
So do you feel like do you feel like because you were on that paper chase, you neglected the relationship? Is that what you're saying?
Not that particular one, but I'm giving a different time.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
A different time, I would say yes. So, like you said, people are responsible for their own actions.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe that people do things that they want to do at that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
You may regret it later. And then when you take a step back and you're like, shouldn't have done that. It wasn't worth that. But at that particular time, you don't just trip and fall on top of somebody, if you understand
Right.
what I'm saying. So it's clear, conscious decisions that are being made. But people can still contribute to the factors that put a person in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I may have contributed in one particular relationship that I'm thinking about by, you know what? I remember the fact that I stopped making those compliments.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped with the flowers. I stopped with date night. I stopped with never letting her forget that she's my girlfriend, regardless how long you've been in that relationship. If you marry a woman, never let her forget she's still your girlfriend, even though you're married to her. So, and just chasing that dollar, chasing that money, you know, things become routine. Well, after a while, you know, someone else is going to get in her ear and say something to her. The things that I used to say, the things that I used to do. So that was it, basically. You know, but yeah, so I've experienced it on both sides where I had nothing to do with it and where I did have something to do with it.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to stop on that note and we're going to give you 30 more minutes. But guess where that's going to be? Part 2. We tried, people. We tried. We said we're going to do one part. We tried. But we're going to give you part 2 because that's a lot to unpack and that's real. And I'm so thankful for this honest conversation. We need conversations like this because that's where the understanding lies. When you talk about infidelity and cheating, you know, sometimes there's a lot of judgment going around. There's a lot of, I wouldn't do it. Even I said that myself. I used to say, well, I'm not going to take that. You know, I never judged anyone else in their walk. I had a good girlfriend of mine. Her husband cheated on her. And she called me one day. She said, am I stupid for staying? I said, absolutely not. Do you want to stay? Because if you want to stay, that's the only concern that you need to have. If you're mate and you want to stay and work it out, then that's the only answer you need is from that other person. So it's no one else's business to judge someone else's relationship. But we're here just learning and growing and see how other people's walks are. Because through other people's stories and testimonies can help other people in their relationships or in their love language with anybody else. And we're not just talking about marriages and relationships. This could be someone else. You could be putting the pieces back together. I know Shedana said she wasn't sure if men had emotions or if they showed emotions the same way we do. And there are a lot of women that feel that way. And a lot of men who say, no one gave me permission to have these emotions. So these men on here gave you permission to have these emotions. So we're going to take a break and we're going to go to part 2. So hopefully you come back with us. But before you leave, please subscribe, like, and share this first part. We'll be back with the conversation with men and women. Be right back to part 2.